Thank you, and welcome back to Race Industry Week 2023. Mr. Roller, how are you doing today?
I am doing very well. And how are you two today?
Oh, we had a fantastic day. I mean, just a few seconds ago, Stefan Papadakis, we opened the day with Adrian Newey, Bobby Rahal. I mean, it's just one after another. We talked about E1 racing. We had Kevin Harvick. We had WRC, and then a series of drag racer with Matt Hartford, John Force, Robert Hyde. I mean, the John Force team all together, and then Johnny Stewart, and goes on, and Linda Vaughn. I mean, it was just absolutely fantastic. And we also had Jonathan from Mazda, and it was a great day. And I think we're ready to dive into off-road with Marty Fiolka with us. Marty should be, I see he's on screen. We're going to ask him to start his video.
There he is.
Mr. Fiolka, welcome back to the program.
Welcome. Thank you so much. An honor to be here. And yeah, it's hard following guys like Tony Stewart and Linda and Stefan, and going to get everybody back into the dirt world a little bit, but that's okay. It's going to be a great conversation with my friend Jim Roller, and looking forward to talking all things Crandon. So it's all good.
On to you, Jim.
Well, I think it would be easy to say that our cavalcade of stars continues with Marty Fiolka. How are you, my friend? I've been when they offered up who we could talk to this week for our slots, I said, "Oh, I definitely want to chat with my friend Marty Fiolka." And the topic of conversation today, despite your vast experience and track record of success in off-road racing, is one event in particular, and that is Crandon, and that is the annual Labor Day off-road extravaganza that happens every year. This year, coming up in 2024, will be the 55th annual Crandon get together. Marty, what is it like to be involved in an event that is considered the Indy 500 of its sport? It's the Le Mans of off-road racing. It's the Indy 500 of off-road racing. Pick whatever great seminal event you want. Crandon is its equal in the off-road world.
Yeah, I think so. And what's it like? It's a career honor for me. I mean, I've raced and was involved with every form of off-road racing, from not a lot of rock racing, but certainly desert racing. I've raced Baja, still race Baja every year at the NORA race with my race team. But Crandon was always that thing from the first time I went, which was back in 1998. I actually went with Road and Track. I was the PR director for Nissan, and we had a factory team at Crandon. And even from that first time that I went there, I was just astonished by this thing that was in the middle of these. It was anything like I'd seen before. I was used to desert and dirt tracks, and now I go out to the Northwoods of Wisconsin. I see this beautiful, facility that they had started building. And that was back then, and it was always something special. And to kind of be the steward now. I've been involved with Crandon for next year, it'll be my 10th year, but to be kind of the steward and kind of take the baton that small group of people built over 55 years now, as you said, next year, and now the Flannery family owns the racetrack. To kind of be the steward of that is an honor, and it's a lot of fun. And you mentioned kind of these seminal events. I was fortunate enough in my career to go to and be involved with the Indianapolis 500 and the 24 Hours of Le Mans and Sebring, and so I kind of learned some of the best practices that they had, and thought, we need to address this event, especially Labor Day. We have two races at Crandon. We have a June event, the Brush Run, but then the big ones, the Polaris World Championships and the Red Bull Cup. Those are like, the Labor Day was big, and we've managed now the last couple of years to almost double the size of the attendance, greatly enhance the sponsorship package, greatly enhance the exposure on television, live streaming, adding concerts, all the things we do now. But it's a lifestyle event that's truly, I feel, in its own level at that flat category. We're not going to get 350,000 people like we can at the Indy 500, but we did have 65,000 people plus about 13,000 for this KISS concert this year, and we were sold out 6 months in advance. So we're now at that point where you know, we almost are almost out of space. But Crandon is, as you said, Jim, is its own unique entity, and it's special. You were there with me this year. You saw it.
Yeah, it was my first time to actually attend the event, and I was blown away. It was absolutely fantastic. The facility is great, and I came at it from a perspective. I remember the Mickey Thompson Stadium trucks and the excitement and everything that those racing series captured. Well, this was every bit as good. And I would say the action that I saw over 3 days there, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, was better than any off-road action I had ever seen. And the layout is fantastic. But how have you grown the event? There's a lot of promoters that you know, they're one and done, and or it's a family operation that maybe does it for a couple of years until the patriarch loses interest and that sort of stuff, or matriarch loses interest. How have the folks at Crandon, and now with your help for the last for quite a while actually now, how have you managed to continue to grow the event? What kind of lessons can you teach or can you share with young promoters out there who might be looking to start a grassroots event of their own?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot of things. First of all, it starts with a base of actually it starts with Cliff Flannery, right? Cliff Flannery has been at the racetrack for 55 years with the event. The track's been there since the late 80s, that facility, but he's been the cornerstone of it all. And there was a board of directors that was there for a long time, and then that kind of expired itself, and then Cliff and the Flannery family bought Crandon. So they bought the facility. I was involved with some of that, but then, you know, you have now the second and third generations behind Cliff involved. So that helps on a passion side. You're involved with a small town of 1,800 people. That this is the biggest thing in town. This is the biggest thing in that part of the Northwoods period in terms of an event. But I think the one thing I've learned is that there was always this idea we had to elevate Labor Day, especially Labor Day Sunday, to be like a Super Bowl event. You know, like you mentioned, Mickey Thompson Stadium Series, which I loved back in the day, I was involved with. But all of them, all the short course series had year-long champions, but there wasn't one event like you had to win. I mean, yeah, Crandon was bigger, but it was always like tied into the series championship. And then in 2016, we were able to get the Red Bull folks to come on board and create our own day on Sunday, which was now, this is Crandon, these are all the pro classes. They race for their world championship. It's no points, but it's big money, purse money. It's big television. It's a lot of prestige. And we just treat the event now like I do with the Indianapolis 500. It's Memorial Day, and there's nowhere place I'd rather be than at the Indy 500. I was able to go this year again with some friends, and you know, recaptured what that was like and remembered, yeah, well, you know, now we have Labor Day, which is another, you know, pinnacle summer day. And that's the last real blowout for these folks up in the Northwoods of Wisconsin. That's going to get cold soon, right? And you just bring in things like National Guard people, and you bring in, you know, some pomp and circumstance. And next year probably have a vintage airplane flyover, and you bring in some things to really elevate the day and make people remember, and this is great that we're all here together. That was one thing. The other thing that we did is not be afraid to cross-culturalize the event. For years and years, it was only about short course racing and short course racers, which is, as you said, it's amazing spectacle. Everything from, you know, the sportsman guys in their little VW powered buggies all the way to 1,000 horsepower all-wheel drive Pro Ford Toyota, you know, trucks like the Johnny and CJ Greaves have. To the spectacle that is. But then we added Ultra 4 racing. We actually built out a rock section to actually make a hybrid track where we had rock racing and the short course. We ran that at night under lights, which added another spectacle to it. Then
that was stunning. That was actually, sorry to interrupt, but that was stunning.
We brought a bit of King of the Hammers to Crandon, and we've kind of formalized how to do that and start off with just the 4,400 guys like Vaughn Gittin and Lauren Healy, and now we have all the classes of Ultra 4 USA running there, which is great. And then a couple of years ago, there was another trend that was going to work, and I took a gamble on it with Cliff Flannery. We brought in the Class 11s, which are stock VW, basically stock VWs. That it's a class that Mickey Thompson invented way back in the mid 70s for racing at Riverside. But they race it. They race in the Baja 1000. They race everywhere. We brought them and built a short course world championship for them. Had 28 of those cars there this year. So we had about 450 race teams there. And when you go to a racetrack with that many teams, just its own momentum, just with that. And then we ran three practices on Thursday, but then between Friday, Saturday, and Sunday of this year, we ran, I think, 54 races in 3 days. And that was day racing, night racing. And then we added on top of that, in 2019, we had the ability to, for our 50th anniversary, we added a Kid Rock concert Friday night. And then thanks to a new partnership where we have with the Forest County Potawatomi and the casino there in Milwaukee, this year we had KISS for one of their last tour dates there. So you have this 5-day experience, and the one thing that you asked me about the promoters, you have to have patience. You have to have patience in certain things, in sponsorships, and as long as you're growing towards what you think is the right thing to do. And I think there were other events in our space, King of the Hammers being one, where it's more than just a race, right? It's the whole culture getting together, and the Mint 400 does that well. The Baja 1000 does that well. If you are looking around in other forms of racing, that's what they're doing now. You look at Iowa last year at the IndyCar race, and they had 4 huge bands, Zach Brown Band and Kenny Chesney and Carrie Underwood. I mean, these are things you have to look at and pay attention to, because if that's working, then you've got to kind of adapt to that way of thinking too. You just can't keep the same thing going all the time, as great as it is. So us having this kind of ability to do this, as you saw, Jim, I think in 2023, I think we finally kind of perfected the secret sauce. Like the recipe is now kind of sorted out. Now, it doesn't mean we can do a lot more. We can do a lot more with broadcast television, the fan experience. Now we added a bunch more camping, but that was sold out too. So there's not much more facility wise we can do. We can do some more corporate hospitality, but it's really about having a plan and knowing who your audience is, knowing where you want to go, and trying to just elevate the event and distinguish it from everything else going on.
One of the things you said, and it kind of slipped by in passing when we were first talking, it is become, not only is it a 3-day race weekend, it is a 5-day lifestyle event, because between you and I were even joking around at one point that maybe what we should do is get some of the people who make campers and coaches and stuff and do like an industry trade show, because there were 5,000 people camping there, and
it was more than that. I mean, it was
really? Yeah. Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
And all the side by sides. I mean, it really was that lifestyle, outdoor life, off-road lifestyle event, and it covered the entire gamut of all the classes. Like you said, the Class 11 VWs, they're a great hit. So yeah, it encompasses everything.
It does, and you have to, so we have now about 2,500 designated camping spots there that are all taken. So and most of those 2 or 3 campers fit in those, and a lot of our campers now they used to come in tents, right? When I first started coming there, or they were sleeping in the back of their station wagons, whatever it was. And now, a lot of them have fifth wheels. A lot of the fifth wheels contain side by sides. There's 400 miles of trails, state trails, right out of our facility, like right in front of our facility. There's the trail, and you can ride the side by side into town. We have this huge parade now, which we've had for years, but we had about 10,000 people downtown for the parade. People take their sides by sides for that, race side by sides. There's a lot of manufacturer support from Polaris and Honda and Can-Am and Yamaha just on that, in that space alone. I mean, that's where a lot of the growth is, and that's where a lot of the access to the off-road world starts. Is where it used to be we had to go buy a dune buggy or a Volkswagen. They still race. But now it's side by sides, and it doesn't matter if it's desert racing like Baja, or it doesn't matter if it's short course racing anywhere, or even rock racing like King of the Hammers. We raced King of the Hammer style side by sides at Crandon as well, and that's where, you know, a lot of, and they're, you know, the kids are racing those too now. So the great thing about off-road racing is that it's never at a loss for being young, youth driven. It's never ever stale. It's never where that, yeah, there's certainly that's multi-generational, but it doesn't mean it's necessarily graying out. It means that, you know, these young people love doing it. You know, it's a lot safer jumping in a little side by side than it is like jumping on a motorcycle in terms of, you know, certainly racing them. And I think that people just into that lifestyle, and you can use these vehicles in Wisconsin for going hunting. You can use them for, you know, they can drive on the streets. So it's not that inaccessible anymore, where you have to literally go buy something to experience. Now you can just do it.
Yeah, and an interesting point, because many racing series do fret about their audience graying out.
Yeah.
But at least at Crandon, I saw family after family after family, and that's, again, that's where it comes back to the lifestyle thing. One of the things I also found interesting, and we can go all the way back to the Mickey Thompson era, but off-road series have come and they have gone. And especially in the short course world, this year there was a move towards some consolidation. Still remains to be seen whether that can actually happen or not. But how, as an entity, when those, how do you keep the momentum, and how do you keep the event moving forward when you have these series that kind of come and go as things are cyclical?
Well, I mean,
55 years, you've seen more come than go than probably any other promoter on the history of the planet.
we have, but you just go back to the mindset of a Le Mans or Indianapolis. You know, you know that Crandon's been around so long, and we've polished the diamond now, and we've opened it up to more racers now, other than just short course. Now people are coming from all around the country, not just Midwest. So you know that you can essentially function without a sanctioning body. We could run our own race if we want. Now that's not what anybody wants, and that's not, you know, that's not how this really works. But in that sense, you know, Crandon in the short course world has been the locomotive. And the locomotive got helped in 16 when they had two series, East Coast and West Coast, and we came up with our own rules package for Red Bull World Cup Sunday so that they could all race together. And when that happened, and all the athletes, the best athletes in the world, were back at Crandon now. And yeah, there was just a simple balance of performance. It took a little while to get to that, but finally you could see all the best Pro 2 and Pro 4 guys racing against each other again. Then it stirred it all up to, hey, this is great. And the West Coast guys like, well, we have a Super Bowl. We forgot we have a Super Bowl Sunday here, that we're an event that's worthy of us coming, of our sponsors being part of, because you have so many people and it has so much heritage and history. So you kind of you help out the series, because you want the other tracks that are built for this. You know, Bark River's one in Michigan, ERX in Minnesota. There's other smaller tracks that are built. You know, Wheatland has a track. The Lucas Oil Speedway has an off-road track. You want to help those tracks also have events and bring money in, and hopefully they can kind of copy the Crandon model and learn how to do that themselves. I mean, but it's a chicken and egg problem. The Crandon board, when I first got there, and realized they had to invest back in their event, and they had to invest back into a promoter that was a promoter that was actually doing this on almost a full-time basis. I mean, you know, between my wife Susan and I, the two Crandons are essentially almost a full-time job to do that. And especially when you get into things like big major concerts, and you know, you get into all those type of things, and you know, we basically do our own broadcast programs out of the, you know, it's pretty amazing, because if you look at the matrix on broadcast and live stream, well, the Champ Off-Road Series came in this year, and they have, you know, Flow Racing, and they have CBS Sports, and then, you know, Ultra 4 had a relationship, it has a relationship with Speed Sport, so that, and Speed Sport 1, and then we have a relationship with MAV TV, and then, you know, so all that, so then, and then we also buy platforms on Race Desert, Speed Sport, racer.com, so that we're seeing, you know, the numbers of viewers by just saying we're just going to put this as many places as we can, and just focus on like Sunday, because that's as much, you know, this is the best racing, these are the best pro racers. we're going to put the best out there. And, you know, we're looking at some interesting things for next year that actually may come into play here.
Well, it sounds like you have to be part race promoter and part international ambassador.
Yeah, I look, people, you know, we were honored enough last year at the PRI show, which we're going to go to next week again, to be honored as the, you know, the facility of the year at the race promoters, you know, conference that was there. And, you know, it just brought to mind that, you know, Crandon has been around for 55 years. It's a long time. And, you know, it's always been perceived as the ultimate race for off-road racing, short course. And it's always been kind of beyond everything else that's gone with it in terms of just reputation and the facility that they dedicate themselves to building. That's 400 acres built for nothing but being open 8 days a year. For somebody from California, that doesn't even make sense. But in there, you know, who knows what they bought? It was an old dairy farm, so who knows what they put the farm for? But point is that they've dedicated themselves to this. This is a singular focus. And when you do that, and you know, you see sponsors like Red Bull and, you know, Polaris and you know, Yokohama, all these people coming to Lucas Oil that come in and they recognize that they want to be part of it. And, you know, they know that there's value, but it's driving the sport with it. And, you know, when you see the growth of all the classes in short course, from youth classes all the way up to Pro 4 and Pro 2 now, you know, it's definitely, it's got its own momentum, and it's definitely a thing that people are interested in. When you come watch it like you did, Jim, there's not much like it. I mean, I've been around racing a long time, but when you see, you know, when you see Crandon, it's got its own start with that land rush start that we do there, and then they go into turn 1 at 109 miles an hour now, some Pro 4s, and there's, you know, 15 of them sideways doing that. It's spectacular, and it's just nothing but awe-inspiring. And, you know, seeing people like you see it for the first time, and I had Paul Fanner, who's a friend of mine from Racer, and I had Scott Atherton, who used to be the president of IMSA, there with us watching this in the infield. They were astonished by what they were witnessing. It was legitimate motorsports, legitimate. This was not something that these guys cobbled together. I mean, when you have this level of truck and vehicle, it's a spectacular. And then when they went back and watched the Ultra 4s and the rock section back there at night with those vehicles, which are just insanely built too, and you see what they do in their own environment, it's just astonishing. It's great. Yeah, it's one of those things like Tony Stewart was saying earlier, you know, you can watch it on television, but it doesn't do it justice like being there. It just, you can't, no matter what we do on TV, no matter how we produce it. You know, live drones and things help a lot, because in that sport you can actually have live drive drones flying over the trucks themselves. It's not going to hurt anything, but it's still not the same as being there, the noise and all the things that happen. So it's still a great show for the fans.
You also touched upon something. These are real race cars. They are, they're trucks, but these are purpose-built, ground-up race machines. Hundreds of thousands of dollars are invested. How do you manage the rule when you're a standalone event like yours? How do you manage all the rules and the politics of all of that?
Well, the rules are, you know, luckily they're somewhat in those categories have been fairly standardized for a while. The side-by-sides bring in a different conversation, because when you have like Polaris bring in a Pro R, which is their new machine that's a 4-cylinder 2000 cc engine machine versus now 1000 cc turbocharged thing, those require some technique. But like, let's say that what you're talking about, a Pro 4 like Johnny and CJ Greaves have, and Kyle Duke, you know, had, those are purpose-built, like I said, 1,000 horsepower, you know, 5-speed X-Track gearbox, all-wheel drive trucks, full fuel injection Motec, full data acquisition, you know, all live valve shocks. I mean, this is all state-of-the-art off-road stuff. And when you watch those trucks at that track or any other short course track, they are spectacular. If you ran them in Baja, they wouldn't be. If you ran a trophy truck, let's say a Bryce Menzies who just won the Baja 1000, and Andy McMillan, if you brought that truck to Crandon, it would look awful. It would look
get
slow.
lapped.
It would be, they'd be lapped. I mean, they're so specialized in what they do, and lower ride heights and all the things that those guys are doing. But they really, and that's what I mean. People, you can start with the simplest old-fashioned VW powered tube frame buggy if you want, and you can work your way all the way up to those Pro 2s, and the Pro 2s are two-wheel drive versions, but the Pro 4s are every bit as, you know, as technical as you know, almost anything else. I mean, They're sophisticated, and it's just violent though when you look at them. They're so violent and loud. And like the Greaves have these Toyota motors that are, I think, a 2 generation back NASCAR Xfinity motor. So they're winding those things up to 9,000 RPM, and just with the gearboxes, they just sound so. They're race cars. I mean, they're just full on race cars. They're spectacular to watch. I love watching them.
Well, you definitely have the who's who of the sport that comes to Crandon every year, and partly that's because when you win Crandon, you become part of the who's who of off short course off road racing. You have a unique trophy that the winner gets.
Yeah,
Tell us about the rifle. I love that. That was
everybody loves that. So what happens at the end of of World Championship weekend? We have the Red Bull Cup Sunday, which are all the pro classes, and all those guys are called Crandon World Champions. They get a World Championship ring like they have for decades now, and they got Olympic style medals. But then at the end of the day, we have only at Crandon we do this. We have what we call the Red Bull Cup race, and it's Pro 2 versus Pro 4, staggered start. So it's basically 10 laps, no competition yellow, and the Pro 4s, which are fast, are trying to catch the Pro 2s. And it's 25 or 24 trucks all at once on the racetrack, all at once. And it is spectacular to watch. The fans, I mean, it's just the biggest, best way to culminize the weekend. Well, the winner, again, this year was R.J. Anderson. He wins the big Red Bull Cup. But one of the things Cliff Flannery loves to do, he calls those guys the Top Guns of Crandon. And several years ago, he started going to getting Henry rifles, which Henry rifles are made in Wisconsin. And he got one, and he had it engraved with Crandon Top Gun. And every year the guy gets out of the racetrack and goes up to the podium and gets his big wreath and the cup and his medal. But then the thing he really wants is Cliff Flannery to hand him that Top Gun rifle that they get. And I remember one year, a little story, Red Bull said, well, Marty, we can't have somebody handing somebody a gun. I said, well, it's going to happen, and it's going to happen every year because that's what we do. And they finally had to adjust. Look, obviously, it's not loaded or anything, but it is it's a legitimate rifle, and it's brass plated and it's beautiful, and they hold them over their heads, and that's just a Crandon tradition, and it fits with our culture. Look, I mean, right now up there, it's hunting season, it's deer hunting season, so. These people are used to being sportsmen and campers and fishermen, hunters, and that's what happens there. And a lot of the sponsors, they almost come in and try to commercialize it too much, which is a mistake. When I first got there, I tried to sanitize it a little bit too much too, and I had to take a step backwards and say, no. Cheese curds, moonshine, these type of things are what makes this event great. And chicken wings and all the things that everybody loves to buy. And I remember this year, after years, we had Wilfred Eibach, the founder of Eibach Springs, there, and he'd come over from Germany just for this. And I had known him and worked for him a long time ago, and he was just astonished at how American this event felt. It was just American. It wasn't pretentious America. This was down home America at a high level with the racing, but these fans were just sitting there having a great time. It's just what it is, and it's got its own vibe that you just build upon it on the strengths of it. You just can't, like I said, over sanitize it too much. So the Top Gun rifle is part of that thought process. Like, no, that's what we're gonna do.
Well, a dear friend of mine and colleague was born and raised in Wisconsin, and she always used to tell me, because I didn't like cheese curds, and she says, well, that means that you just haven't had a good cheese curd. And I got to tell you, we went to lunch one day, and I had the best cheese curd I have ever had at that little place out there on the lake. And it was outstanding. Marty, I wish you nothing but the best of luck. You are promoting what is a truly American event, and bless you for that, and good luck to everybody at Crandon, and I hope they have 55 more years, because I think the 100th anniversary celebration of Crandon would be every bit as big as the 100th anniversary celebration that it was at Le Mans and the Indy 500. So good luck to you.
Thank you. Knowing my age right now, I'm doing some quick math. I probably won't be here for the 100, but hopefully we leave a legacy for the next family to kind of take what we built here, just move forward. So thank you, Jim. I appreciate it.
All right.
Well, let me just say a special thank you from all of us at EPARTRADE, Marty, because you helped us since day one in, from the first race industry week to get it to where it is today. And, with your good friend, Paul Fanner, you were one of the first one to jump on, and you have helped us so much in the off-road world, and so we're very grateful for your contribution each year. And we can't wait to be at the 55 annual Race Industry Week and have you back on still.
Well, you two need to come and see it first of all. That's the first thing.
Oh yeah.
That and I will see. I'm looking forward to. Thank you for that. I'm honored. Always honored. It's one of the highlights of my year here, carrying on and speaking about sport and Crandon. And I look forward to seeing you guys next week at PRI. I'm sure we'll see each other there for sure.
We'll see
Yes,
you.
Marty. Thank you very much. So.
Registering on EPARTRADE is easy. To start, click on the Join for Free button on the homepage. First, search your company to see if it's already in our database. If you see your company on the list, click on it to select it. Then, choose Claim Company if you are one of the decision makers, an owner, marketing person, or main company contact. Or choose Join Company if you are an employee, and press Continue. If you couldn't find your company in our database, select Register a New Company. On the following page, fill out your name, email, phone number, job title, and choose a secure password. If you chose Register a New Company, you'll need to choose your business type. Select Supplier if you're looking to display products or services and connect with buyers. Choose Racing Business if you're looking to source new parts and connect with suppliers. Choose Race Team if you own or are a member of a professional race team. Then, enter your company name. Please provide a website, Facebook page, or LinkedIn if you have one, and choose to either claim or join the company. You can view and agree to our terms of use here. If you'd like to receive our weekly newsletter, choose Accept. Finally, click Register Now and your registration will be submitted for approval. An email will be sent to your inbox. Please confirm your email address and you will be approved shortly. Welcome to EPARTRADE.